Hey, folks, thanks for joining me today here on Dr. Mike Live. Fantastic show today for you. A couple of subjects that everyone is interested in. One is debt. There's something, well, you know what? A phrase that Coach uses all the time comes to mind. There's something happening here. In America, Jared, would you show that debt clock for me, please? In America, folks, there is something happening here. $22 trillion and counting. $22 trillion of debt in America. Now, that's staggering in anyone's estimation. But the thing that I want to tell you, folks, is that is not repayable. Is that a good way to say it? We're never going to get out of debt if that's a true figure. Do you understand that? There's no way for America to get out of debt if that continues. The last couple of years, folks, men and women in America have struggled under the bondage and the burden and really the slavery of debt. That's what debt does to you. I was reading a statistic not too long ago that says the average American can no longer get a credit card with the best interest rate. Let that sink in for a minute. The average American, when they apply for a credit card, they are getting one of the worst, middle of the pack, or one of the worst interest rates on repayment. And if you fall into the trap of only paying a minimum payment on a credit card, you know what's going to happen? Well, it's going to take you about 25 or 30 years to pay that thing off. Think about that. And that's intentional, folks. That is intentional. And I think that's what the Bible describes as usury. That is unreasonable interest on a credit card. It's just an amazing thing. Jared, has Steve joined us? My guest today is Steve Carr. Yes, why don't we call him and get him on the line? Steve Carr, while you're doing that, I'll just give a brief intro. Steve Carr is president of the Alliance Group, a private equity group, but he's also the founder and president of Shared Abundance. Shared Abundance. And this is a fantastic organization, and I hope that we'll talk about that a little bit with Steve when we get him on the line. Further to my point, when we started, folks, the average American doesn't even have $500 worth of savings put back. Can you believe that? Steve, are you with us?
Yes, Dr. Mike, I am with you. And actually, I was listening to your great introduction on the other line. I'm not sure why you were not able to hear me, but thank you for pointing those things out, Dr. Mike. You're right on the money. And unfortunately, my friend, we have put God in yet another bind. That's the bad news. We're good at that, right?
Yes.
You never anticipated we were going to choose the one tree.
That's right.
We got a whole garden, and we got to hit the one tree.
We got to get the one tree.
You know, he never could have imagined that we were going to be as evil in Genesis 6. So he had the Noah's Ark situation, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, as with all things with him, Dr. Mike, even though we continue over and over and over again to put God in a really terrible bind, he is loving and gracious. He doesn't throw us into debtor's prison. He basically comes up with this concept because he knows us so well, called a year of Jubilee, which we've never done, by the way. So we'd rather go with man's ways, which are so punitive, as you pointed out, usury, et cetera,
yes,
rather than just simply follow what God, the God who loves us so deeply, has to share with us. We just won't do it.
Yeah. Well, Steve, just in case, just in the outside chance that there's someone listening to us today, watching us on one of these several platforms that's streaming this live, By the way, shout out to Before It's News. They're carrying us and watching us. Steve, what is the year of Jubilees? You mentioned that. Some Christians, they might not know. What is that?
Well, and it's really sad because there's a number of ways to handle debt, right? So you have, the hardcore, very, very legalistic way where if you owe somebody debt, let's say that you stole like Les Mis, okay, you stole bread, to feed a starving niece. You're thrown in prison, and you're in for years and years and years, quote, to pay your crime, and you have to work hard labor, and it's very unjust and unfair. God, knowing how stupid we are, Dr. Mike, and that's a proper term, stupid would work. Foolish maybe is a little nicer. He said, okay, they're going to do it anyway, right? If I say yes, they say no. If I say white, they say black. That's just kind of the way we are with this tendency that we have towards sin. So he knew we were going to get in trouble. And so he set up the bankruptcy system, which obviously is 7 years. People use it, fortunately, in our entrepreneurial capitalistic system in the United States of America. We use it. And people at times find themselves in a situation where they have to file bankruptcy. And I know people who have filed bankruptcy 2 or 3 times, Dr. Mike, who are now multi-billionaires. Most people fail.
Yeah.
My brother Bob, who sold Heartland for $4.3 billion, New York Stock Exchange traded company 2 years ago, before he made it in Heartland Payment Systems, a credit card processing firm, the 5th largest in the world at the time. He failed twice in U.S. Computer and Softmax. Nobody remembers those.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
They just remember that he's a multi-billionaire right now.
Yes.
So there's God's way, and then there's man's way. And then every 7 cycles, or basically 49, 50 years, Dr. Mike, God instructed us to have what's called a year of Jubilee, which is a reset. It's like turning your computer on and off, or turning your computer off to turn it back on when the system is so cobbled up. It's so messed up. The only way you can really get it to function properly is to shut it off, let it reset, and turn back on again. Now, we kind of had, as you know, Dr. Mike, in 2008, a reset, but it wasn't a reset for the everyday person. It was a reset for the banks.
Yes.
So literally, trillions of dollars that we pumped into, in a sense, a year of Jubilee in 2008 for the banks. Mike, if we would have taken that same amount of money, we could have helped everybody almost eliminate their net debt in 2008 if we just would have given it to the people who are the ones who would take it and empower them to get a fresh start.
Excellent point. Excellent point. So
we're willing to bail out the banks who aren't getting it to the end user. They're not getting it to the small businesses. They're not getting it to the person who's overburdened in debt, and work out a gracious situation. And instead, they're doing exactly what you're talking about. And if Jared will go down to the very bottom of that U.S. debt clock chart, you'll see unfunded liabilities on the last line toward the left side. Guess what, Dr. Mike? It's even worse than you've talked about already, and I know you know this.
Oh, man.
Unfunded liabilities over $1 million in debt per U.S. taxpayer. How are we going to pay that back?
That's impossible. It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So we can live in la la land and say, okay, well, we can just print money, helicopter Ben, right? Remember when Ben Bernanke was saying, we'll just fly over helicopters and drop money. Okay, well, even as the reserve currency of the world, sooner or later, even as a reserve currency, there's a crisis of confidence. And that crisis of confidence will happen. So here's one of 2 options we have, really. This is all historical. Either we can have a designed default or a bloody default. Now, this isn't the first time this happened in this country. Back after 1776, our founding fathers could not pay off the revolutionary debt. So what they did is they defaulted on the continental dollar, 200 continental dollars to one silver dollar, which was a silver Spanish coin called the dólar. We're on the silver standard, not the gold standard. My point is this. We can either go man's way and have blood in the streets, like the Weimar Republic, or basically like Argentina and other countries, or we can do it God's way and have a reset that empowers people and gets things back to a fair and just standard once again.
Yes, yes. And I don't want to, folks, listen, I'm just going to connect a couple of dots for you. And I don't want to take the conversation this way, Steve, but it bears stating that what happened in the Weimar Republic with their currency, the runaway inflation, wheelbarrows of I don't know if it was Deutschmarks at that time, but wheelbarrows.
Yeah.
Okay. Wheelbarrows full of paper currency might buy you a loaf of bread. Now, because of that, what happened was a man by the name of Adolf Hitler came onto the scene and promised to restore German pride and the economy. And when he started delivering, they turned all power over to him. Now, that's a very short, condensed version of history. But what Steve is talking about here, we can do this the right way, or we can do it the wrong way, which is going to lead to bloodshed in the streets. And I know, folks, I'm not a fear monger at all. I'm just trying to tell you that we need to grasp this situation, the gravity of it, and do something about it. So Steve, we're all about solutions, right? I know you are. I am. So what steps do we need to be taking right now? First of all, as individuals, and then secondly, as a nation.
Yeah, I would say that the most important thing, Dr. Mike, is that we need to recognize and lovingly, humbly share with people that God is outrageously in love with us, and he's pretty doggone smart too. So when he suggests something to us, there's probably pretty good evidence that if we do it in the spirit in which he recommended, we're going to have great results. Now, people say to me, oh, we can't forgive the debt. You know, there's no way our whole system will explode, the real estate market will implode. Well, how so? Now, let's take a person, and I'm not going to say it's me, but let's take somebody, Dr. Mike, who's got $1 million portfolio, a pretty well-to-do person. In that portfolio, he's got $200,000 of U.S. Treasury debt that he owns. And in that, he's got $200,000 worth of mortgage debt that he owes. If we have a year of Jubilee, what's going to happen to that portfolio? It's basically going to nix itself out, right? He's going to lose $200,000 in the value of the Treasury assets that he owned because he owned the debt. But he's going to have forgiven $200,000 in mortgage debt that he owes. Now, is his house going to implode? Is it going to fall apart?
No.
No. All it's going to do is change ownership from a government guaranteed mortgage to a government guaranteed debt, neither of which they're going to be able to support. But that's not a negative on the economy. It's a nix on the economy. And right now, as you pointed out, some people who are listening to this show, here's how onerous man's way is, Dr. Mike. There are people on this show that are paying 33% interest on their credit card, and they don't even know it.
Wow. That's outrageous. That's criminal is what it is.
It is. And again, it's violating another one of God's gracious, loving principles, which is usury, which basically is over 2 to 6% a year interest. And again, is our way really better than God's way? I don't think so.
Yeah, not even close. Not even close. So, steps to get our finances under control. First step is, and I know this sounds like a broken record. People have heard this again and again and again. But listen, folks, it's the truth. That's why people keep repeating it, because it's true and because it works. Stop spending above your means. It doesn't get any simpler than that, does it, Steve?
Well, that is so important. But another thing I want to share, Mike, is why is it that the Jewish community, the LDS Mormon community, is better at the share economy than born again Christians? Like right now, I am staying at beautiful Oceanside. I'm looking out at the Pacific Ocean right now. This cost me $125. That's everything. That's, resort fee, that's tax, that's everything else. Now, how in the world could I get a beautiful refurbished 2-bedroom resort room for a night for $125? Well, I'll tell you how I do it. I work with other Christians that own this with me. I couldn't do it myself. We see how Uber and Lyft and Airbnb and VRBO are lowering the price of, I pay about 40% on Uber and Lyft of what I pay for a taxi. And I actually have a person who loves driving, and I get to know them right while I'm driving. Why didn't we come up with that as believers? Why aren't we sharing, things together? Why aren't we finding creative ways where we can buy in bulk and have a co-op, at a church where it greatly reduces all of our prices? The same on clothes, the same on so many other things as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Those are fantastic ideas. So why aren't we doing that? What do you think is the reason, Steve?
Well, I think that we have gotten away from the spirit and the substance of God's instruction manual for the human race called the Bible. When you look at the early church in Acts, Barnabas actually went out and sold his real estate because of the Christians who were there because of Pentecost, and they were staying longer. There was a spirit of camaraderie. Now, I am not a socialist. I'm not a communist. I don't know that I really like being called a capitalist when I look at James 5 and so forth. I like being called a Christian, and I like being called a Christian economist who looks to the Bible where I know the character of God, Dr. Mike.
Yeah.
I know him. You know him.
Yeah.
We know his love for us. We know, here's one that I love. Think about this. All you guys who are out there, think about how stupid we are. So God puts us in a temperature-controlled garden with all the healthy fast food. All you got to do is pick it off the trees, the nuts, the fruit, vegetables off of bushes. A naked woman as his wife, and all the wine he can drink. What's wrong with us? How did we think, Dr. Mike, we could do better than that?
Yeah. We listen to a lie.
We've listened to a lie. That's right.
Yeah.
And the solution then, since we're both solutionists, biblical solutionists, is maybe we want to check out what God has to say about these things and try his way. We're trying all this other nonsense, none of which is really working. Do we really think the Republicans are going to fix our problems, or the Democrats are going to fix our problems, or the Libertarians are going to fix our problems? I don't think so.
Mm-mm.
What I have found from my own personal experience, and I've been all of those, is that where they align, to whatever extent they align, Dr. Mike, with the Word of God, it works. And wherever they deviate from it, it doesn't work. James 5 is very clear about capitalism that goes amok, where people are taking advantage of their workers and so forth. I don't want to be woe unto you rich, where your silver and gold and garments have rotted and they're moth-eaten. I don't want to go there.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
Where I do want to go, though, is creating wealth for the sake of sharing it with other people, because to me, the joy of living is giving.
Amen. Amen. Yes. Do we lose him? Okay. All right. You still with us, Steve?
I am.
Okay. Yes. So the joy of giving. Let's follow that thought. the joy of giving. We were talking about Christian sharing, pooling resources, making available resources that we may have for the benefit of other believers. That kind of an attitude of sharing what God has blessed us with, if we'll build that into a network, just start with our own sphere of influence, people in our own life, people that we know in ministry and in other ways, I think that's a foundation for what you're talking about here.
Well, wow, Mike, I mean, you've really fast forwarded here. I know in your email, you're involved with LifeVantage, which, by the way, I think is a great company. I love their products and use many of them, including ProTandem. In our model, what we do, just real quickly, brother, is we team up what we call everyday people with private equity people. So whatever they invest in their business, we double it plus $1.
Jared, Shared Abundance. The website, I think I gave you a link there. We'll bring that up. I'm sorry, Steve, go right ahead.
Sure. No, it's all good. So, yeah, it's, to me, empowering people so that they are free to do as the Lord has called them to do, not creating dependence, but creating interdependence.
Yes.
Is the greatest joy I have, brother. It's, I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said, I'd rather teach a man to fish than give a man a fish.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that website up, Jared?
It could be sharedabundance.org. See, I can't see it. So I'm just on the phone.
Sharedabundance.org.
It could be, let's see, is it
that's it.
sharedabundance.org? Okay.
Yep, that's it. Yep.
Great.
Yep. So if people are interested in this, Steve, how would they contact you?
Just give them my phone number. Just give my phone number out, and we are just getting started. We haven't even had a hard launch yet. We're just in pre-launch, and we can get into the details of about this. But we have 1,872 members. They're all accredited investors, and we have been diversified into the network marketing space now for several years, but we still sell direct sales, affiliate sales, but we really see the potential in network marketing if it's done properly.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's a fantastic concept. You and I are going to be discussing this further. I want to open it up to any questions. We've got quite a few people in the green room. So does anyone have any questions right now you'd like to ask Steve, points that you'd like to make or bring up? Please unmute yourself and then ask that question. Or Kathy, is there anyone on any of the social media platforms that have questions?
I do have a question from Brian on Facebook. He wants to know if it's too late for us to go back to the gold standard. And if we go back, how would Steve implement it?
Okay. I'd be happy to address that. Now, should I just go now? Are we live now?
Yep. Okay. We're live. Go right ahead.
Okay. So thank you for that question. That is a very perceptive question. The first thing I would say, and it's a little technical difference, not a big one, is we've really never been on the gold standard. We've really been on the silver standard. The pieces of 8, the silver dollar. And the argument could be made that gold definitely was a part of that because of FDR's confiscation of gold in 1933 with the edict that if you didn't turn it in, you could face up to 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine, which back then was pretty onerous. But anyway, I kind of got sidetracked on that. But yes, I would like to see us go on the silver standard. The reason the silver standard rather than the gold standard are many, many reasons. But number one, 97% of all gold that's ever been mined is above ground in the form of jewelry, art, etc. 99.9% of all silver Evermine is not usable because it's in dumpsters with 1/10 of 1 ounce of silver in it that nobody's got the time or energy to go in and break out, uncover it all in washing machines and so forth. How I would do it is to basically, again, do it the way that God has encouraged, to have just weights and measures, to not allow our federal government or our state governments or municipal governments to spend more than what they bring in. I would also have a national sales tax collected at the register and do away with the IRS, which is an illegal, immoral entity.
Yes.
We were never supposed to have income tax
That's right.
taxed, just our sales.
Yep.
And it's easy breezy, and you get rid of a lot of fraud and people in jail that we have to support, white collar criminals, et cetera. Just collect it at the register, pass it up. They're already doing it on the state level, municipal level. Anyway, it's all barcodes. I don't even care if it's a little progressive, but it's a great question. We've got to get our money based on intrinsic value product. We could do it on corn. We could do it on whiskey. I mean, there's been all different kinds of mediums, but I don't know of a better medium than silver, or if somebody like our friend wanted to have both silver and gold, I would be fine with that as well.
Yes. Yes. Very, very good answer, Steve. Yep. Go right ahead, Jared.
Mr. Carr, how does an economy work? And this is too broad a question. How does an economy work that doesn't have usury?
How does an economy work that doesn't have usury, did you ask?
Yes.
Efficiently.
But I mean, the elements of it, like, how does it even work? Like, I don't know. I guess my usury-based mind can't even comprehend some of the, like, what are like the top 3 things that, how do you get rid of usury? And then how does it work? Like, how does the money scale and stuff, you know?
Excellent. Boy, that's really a perceptive question, Jared. And as you probably know, my friend, we could talk about this one excellent question for 3 hours. But basically, you just make it illegal to charge an interest rate above such and so, which we had in this country for years and decades. It might be 2%, it might be 3%, it might be 4%. And then people's whole mindset totally turns around. But here's something, Jared, you will really appreciate, my friend. Think of how many bank branches have closed in your neighborhood in the last 5 years, and how many payday loan branches have opened.
Yeah.
Think of how sad that is, and how pathetic that is, and how devastating that is, because once people get into the payday loan scheme, they are toast. When you see how much they're paying for their money, sometimes I saw a thing on a person who had a $1,400 check. Within 5 years, not only were they not able to get their $1,400 out, they owed $1,400 beyond the $1,400 check they had to hand over to the payday loan place.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Usury, folks, it's the same thing as if we held our wrists out and they put steel shackles on us, because what it's done is it has created an entire class of folks, an entire country, many of whom cannot pay their debt and get it paid off in a reasonable time. So the way that I look at it, and I don't have a tinfoil hat on, but it almost seems to me that it's been intentional. It's been intentional.
Oh, it absolutely is. Absolutely is. I saw an interview, Dr. Mike, with the guy who came up with this scheme, and that's why they had to base this thing out of South Dakota, which was a state which would allow it. He literally malevolently calculated the lowest amount of money people could spend in order to get the most amount of money off of them over the long run. It's calculated, it's malevolent, and it is just devastating to people.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. It was very deliberate, intentional, and might I say, that kind of behavior and activity towards other people is demonic. It's demonic, folks. clear and simple. We're at the bottom of the hour. Steve, if you can, if you have to go, I understand. But if you could hang around,
Sure.
I'm going to bring my next guest on, my friend Dr. Rich, and he's going to talk about of all things. You mentioned LifeVantage. That's something that Kathy and I recently discovered and have begun using ourselves. But first, before we do that, folks, listen. The ministry is expanding, and I'm going to bring my friend Mike on to chat about this for a little bit. But the ministry is expanding. Kathy and my personal lives are about to change very, very soon. Not going to give any dates, but we are both looking, and it's no secret to those of you who know Kathy and I. We are set to retire very soon from the jobs that have supported us our entire lives. We've been very highly favored, David Arthur. We've been blessed and highly favored by the Lord. But we're gonna leave that. It's time to focus 100% on ministry, and that means for Kathy and I both, that means taking back at least a minimum of 50 hours a week that we've been devoting to our employer, and we're going to now use the large portion of that for ministry. I'm excited about it because, I love writing. I've got several book projects going on right now. But in order to do that, we need to be healthy. First of all, that's why Kathy and I have both taken charge of our bodies. We've both lost weight recently. We're healthier than we've been in several years, and very excited about the future. But also, folks, we need your financial help. We need your support. If you'd like to help us grow this ministry, and as we move out into this new chapter in our lives, we've got a lot of things going on, a lot of benefits for you. If we can do this, I would appreciate your help and your financial support. You can go there to Dr. Mike Live, donate there to help support us, one-time gift or a monthly gift. And listen, I got to tell you, I'm uncomfortable saying that because I'm not one that has ever had need to ask anybody for anything. Father has blessed in abundance, but I understand this is a change of course in me and Kathy's life. So I'm asking you prayerfully consider supporting us either one time or on a monthly basis. And I want to bring Mike in because even though I've rambled on for a couple of minutes, he says it much more eloquently than I do. Mike?
Well, Dr. Mike, I'm thrilled to be helping you, and I've spent my entire adult life working with evangelical Christians. I was up in Maine. I was the head of a statewide ministry, and I used to have to make prayer as well as fundraising a part of what I did every single day for about 20 years. And with the little bit of money, the pittance compared to what the people who wanted sodomy to be legal in Maine spent, we did remarkable things. Dr. Mike, you have a number of web properties. You've written books. I'm reading your book right now, Make the Pulpit Great Again, and I'm finding it informative and inspiring and educational and helpful to my own spiritual development. And I want to see you reach more people. And it takes prayer, and it takes capacity, resources, and money is part of that. So you and I have been working together. We've developed a budget for the year for the ministry, for the overall ministry, which I know is low. It's very realistic, and I know we're going to make it by the end of the year. We're going to start educating your viewers and your listeners to your podcast. A $30,000 goal by the end of the year. That includes your Occupy conference, which is going to be the lion's share of that. So the bulk of that income is going to come from ticket sales and from activities related to the Go Ye Therefore conference that you're holding in late July. But so we're going to work with a ministry budget this year of $30,000 by the end of the year. And what we're doing today, Dr. Mike, is asking your viewers to join us in prayer that we reach that goal by the end of 2019.
Yes. Yeah. Amen. Well, thank you, Mike. I appreciate that very much. So, Dr. Rich Petrus, Kathy and I met Dr. Rich and his wife, Tippy, in Canton a few weekends ago. And we were there for Coach Dave's conference, Occupy 2019, and Kathy started talking to Dr. Rich, and she told me, she said, Mike, you've got to talk to this guy. You have to talk to him. The information that he has fits right into where the Lord is leading us and the things that we're trying to do physically, spiritually, and financially. And so had a conversation with Dr. Rich, understood exactly what Kathy was talking about. And we've developed a relationship, and I see some common interests and some common paths forward with Dr. Rich and with Life Vantage. And so, Dr. Rich, are you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. So,
Okay, go ahead.
so we met maybe a month ago. And the Lord has been opening all kinds of doors since then. And so, Dr. Rich, I wonder if you would just give us a quick rundown about Life Vantage, what it is that you're trying to do, because you and I have a heart for helping people. As we were talking with Steve, we want to be solutions oriented. Solutions oriented. What do you think?
Well, that's where we would like to go, except the problem is that not only believers, but non-believers, anybody that goes to a traditional allopathic doctor, they're being lied to. I mean, they're told that, you either take these drugs which kill, steal, and destroy. They only treat symptoms, or you have to have surgery, or you're going to do this the rest of your life. There is no hope. It's our way or the highway. And we've been in this business as a naturopathic doctor, and my wife has been by my side for 30 plus years. And unfortunately, what we've had to do is we worked with people after the traditional medical profession finished with them and said, there's nothing else we can do. We're sorry. You're either going to die or you're going to be on these drugs the rest of your life. You're going to suffer. You're just going to have to endure. Well, we've never accepted that. It is true that people get sick. It's true that people get into accidents or motorcycle wrecks or car accidents or falls or whatever, and they need treatment. The traditional treatment in an emergency room, I really like those doctors. They do a grand job, but it's the long-term care, the treating with chemicals and all of the side effects and only treating the symptoms. It's a lie. It is a total lie. I mean, when we were together at the conference, Coach Dave's conference, and I stood up in front of everybody and I held up this little yellow tablet and I said to everybody, look at this little yellow tablet here. This is a paradigm shift in medicine. How many of you have ever heard of Protandim Nrf2? And not one person raised their hand. Nobody knows about this miracle. And it is a miracle. 45 years in development by a renowned microbiologist who has turned medicine upside down. We now have a proactive choice to take control of our health. You see, Pastor Mike, Dr. Mike, boy, you have many names. It's going to be hard for me to keep you straight, brother. But
Mike's good.
There are probably at least 240 or 250 diseases that are treated by traditional doctors with surgery and prescription medications. However, every single one of those diseases has a single cause. They're all caused by free radical damage, or when we get older, 30 plus years of age, and there are not enough of the antioxidative enzymes. There are 4 of them that are created by our cells to neutralize those free radicals. We develop a situation in medicine called age-related oxidative stress. Now, if we go to pubmed.gov, which is the federal government's library for storing medical research, you will find that there are over 185,000 manuscripts that have been submitted for public review on oxidative stress, every tissue and every part of the body. Oxidative stress is the cause of every disease. However, traditional doctors don't treat the cause. They only treat the symptoms. And I talked to someone who was a medical doctor, and he said, we're trained to push drugs. That's their training. I mean, I don't mean that in a negative sense. I mean, their training is significant, and they know a lot about human physiology. There's no doubt about it. I'm not faulting them or downing them for their training. But when people go to a doctor, they would hope that they could overcome cancer and multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and arthritis and diabetes. It's rampant in our state of West Virginia, but that's not occurring because they're not treating the cause of the disease or the diseases. And we have been in this business for 30 plus years, and it's hard work. It's hard work trying to test somebody and determine what system of the body isn't working correctly, and then retest nutrients or supplements, which is what we used to do, lots of supplementation to help get a certain system of our body work correct. And then change every month and do it over again, etc. And it was a lot of money for the patients, and nobody likes to take a lot of pills. And one of the things that's popular today in society is people can go to several agencies and they can get a genome test. They can get their DNA tested and find out what their genome is. Well, that's an interesting fact because God created every one of us wonderfully and fearfully in his image, and our cell structure and our body function in the cellular level, and that's where we live or die, is very, very, very complex. But we are unique. Our genome, all the genes that God created, and for each of us uniquely. I mean, I may have genes in my body, Dr. Mike, that you don't have in yours, and vice versa. So to go and with that thought in mind, that we are unique, and we go to a medical doctor and maybe they're treating 25 people with arthritis and they all have a different unique genetic makeup, a different genome, and their function in the cellular level is completely isolated and different from the other 24 patients. How is it expected that a drug protocol that they use for every person that has arthritis is going to work for all 25 of those people? It's not. It's going to cause side effects, and it's only going to treat the symptoms, and it's not going to attend to the cause. So we have a formula here. This yellow tablet was music to our ears. We didn't, 30 plus years, we retired from this business. I was also a public school administrator for a long, long time. We were retired from both. Didn't want to come back into business at all. But we had a dog, our dog Gracie, a 5-year-old chocolate lab mix that developed lipomas, these big fatty tumors. She was a young dog, and they were getting so big that she couldn't function. So I called a colleague in Florida, and he had been talking to me about this formula for 3 years. And we were at the end of our career. I didn't really want to talk about it. And I said to him, Steve, look, do you have a dog formula? This company you talked about, do they have a formula that will help our dog with the lipomas? And he said, yes. So we got the formula for the dog and started administering to the dog. And in 6 days, she had energy chasing the cats around. We have 4 acres. She's down in the shelter. We saw a difference. I mean, a dog, there's no placebo effect. She obviously was feeling better. We saw no difference in the tumors yet, but she was feeling better. So I called him back up and said, Steve, I don't want any sales pitch. I'm not into Me Too products or anything else. Just give me one link. One link. I'm a researcher. I want to see the medical efficacy and the proof about this formula that emanated from the human formula. Well, I went to abcgotit.com, and your site is abcgotit.com /MIKA68. All I had to do was watch that first video, the ABC Primetime Investigative Report. I saw the doctor that spent 45 years in developing this natural formula that cost, there he is, Dr. Joe McCord, cost $41 a bottle. But guess what? Nothing in medicine, allopathic medicine or naturopathic medicine, works for everybody. But this does. It works for everybody. According to Dr. McCord, in every lecture that he does, he states, and this is the first thing I heard, it works for everyone at every age, regardless of your health condition or your diagnosed status. And I thought, wow, this is the silver bullet that Tippy and I have been waiting for. So I jumped into the research, and there's a lot of it. It's validated again on PubMed.gov. You can go to PubMed.gov and put in Protandim NRF2 in cancer, Protandim NRF2 in diabetes, Protandim NRF2 in multiple sclerosis, etc., Alzheimer's, autoimmune disease, and you're going to see the research, the positive, validated research come up. I mean, folks, there are 23 peer-reviewed studies. It's so hard to get a peer review completed. 29 clinical studies. I mean, Washington State University, when they did their study, they concluded, their conclusive statement was, this is the most extraordinary preventative breakthrough in the history of medicine. The National Institute of Aging did a 10-year study, and they concluded that it's the only formula that adds 7% longevity and delays or even prevents disease. Well, I'm going to be 70 in December. 7% longevity to me means that I'm going to have added to my lifetime at least 6 good quality years to do what I need to do and do the Lord's work. And that is significant to me. But Dr. Mike, there are so many people that are suffering from major diseases. I've been fortunate to do live conference calls, and we're doing one this Thursday night at 8:15. And I would encourage anybody that's sick, they're not doing well, they don't feel well, the doctor has given them a bad report, maybe someone in their family is terminal, they need to be on the call Thursday night, because I'm going to spend 20 minutes and go a little bit in depth with the clinical research above and beyond what a person could see when they go to that link and hear 2 doctors talk about this. It's their research and many others. But when a person comes on and gives a testimony, and there have been a multitude of testimonies, and they have an incurable cancer, pancreatic cancer, on hospice care, okay? They've been through chemo and radiation. They were very ill, told they were going to pass away, and were introduced to this miraculous paradigm shift in medicine, which activates the body's human cells to recognize what's wrong, and the cells up and down regulate and adjust and start fixing the issues that are causing the symptoms, plus increase the 4 antioxidative enzymes, superoxide dismutase, catalase, hemioxygenase, and glutathione. Each of those neutralize 1 million free radicals per second, 24 hours a day. And they are created by our own cells if they're working correctly and they are activated to do their job. So in 30 days, the research states that taking just one of these tablets per day, the human cells in that person's body relative to their own God-created genome will neutralize 40% of the cause of all disease, oxidative stress. In 120 days, the research validates one tablet of this a day with breakfast will cause the cells to neutralize 70 to 80% of the age-related oxidative stress. Remember, that is the cause of every single disease, but it's not attended to by medical doctors with their prescriptions or surgery. So, and Dr. McCord says in all of his lectures, the longer that you take this, better the cells perform. So there is the conference call information. Yeah, it's going to be about a half hour, and we are going to have a man to give a testimony that was in a severe motorcycle accident, but he had a plethora of medical diseases prior to the accident that were probably going to take his life. After the accident, he was told he would never walk again. I'm not going to tell you the outcome. You've got to tune in. Where he had diabetes and pancreatitis and high triglyceride levels, lots of pain, but had the motorcycle accident, was in a wheelchair, told he'd never walk. You want to hear his testimony. But we heard the testimony. So the person with the pancreatic cancer, they took more than one of these a day. They took 3 a day, their own choice. Nobody told this lady to do that. In 3 months, she went back to her team of physicians and she was validated by a total body scan. There was no cancer in her body anywhere. And their response was, oh my goodness, something's wrong. We've got to send you to Mayo Clinic to find out what's wrong. And she looked at them and said, oh, please, something is definitely right. I no longer have cancer. And this formula that I took is, and she told them, is medically validated to cause my cells to work like I was a newborn to 10 years old again, not aging, not sick. And this formula caused my cells to reverse the symptoms of what you said was incurable and that I was going to die. She said, do I look sick? So her statement was, I'll go to the Mayo Clinic if you pay for the test. And they said they would not do that. She is well today. There's 2 other cases of that. I want to give you just another example. A person, dear friend now, that I've worked with for quite some time. He was a quadriplegic with multiple sclerosis, in bed for 30 years. He could move his lips and move his eyelids. He couldn't feed himself. He didn't have normal bowel elimination. They got him out of bed with a lift for 30 years. He's 8 months now taking his protocol with these products from this company. This product is protected by 12 patents. It's not a Me Too formula. It's the only formula of its kind. It's a nutrigenomic formula. But this man, his first name is Dick, is now standing in front of a walker, moving his feet, moves all of his limbs, feeds himself. It doesn't have to take 3 enemas a day, has normal bowel elimination, goes to Costco once a week, and rides around on his scooter, shaking hands with everyone. Folks, that is miraculous. Thank you, Jesus. It is true that people get these diseases and they're diagnosed with them. There's one cause, oxidative stress. This causes the cells of the body to recognize what's wrong and increase the enzyme function again that neutralizes the cause of the disease. So it's true that people get those diseases, but the truth is we have a solution. There are so many believers that need prayer for healing, and some of them do get healed, but some don't for whatever reason. It's so easy to teach a person how to get well. I mean, $41 a bottle. We're not a salesperson. We're not talking about business here. We're talking about ingesting this tablet in the morning with breakfast, and if you're really sick, one with lunch and one with supper, and then letting the research be applied to their body, so that the truth is, yes, there is they have, it is true that the people get these diseases or unfortunately have an accident, but the truth is that we don't have to be a part of the allopathic medicine lie anymore. I mean, doctors take an oath, the Hippocratic oath, to Apollos and the god of the dead, and their insignia is a staff with a serpent. I mean, kill, steal, and destroy. The prescription simply trick the body into thinking something is wrong, or that something is working correctly, so that the symptoms are not realized by that person. That is not the way God intended us to live. So we can be set free by taking a proactive approach, by simply, and folks, there's so much research. If you want to call me in my office before the conference call on Thursday, our phone number in the office is 304-534-5490. I will consult with you free of charge. I will share with you the protocols that people developed on their own to overcome cancer, to overcome multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's. How about Alzheimer's patient in a rest home in a wheelchair, knew no one. In 5 months of taking this twice a day, was home leading a normal life. How about a medical doctor that was had to retire because he was incapacitated, in a wheelchair, obviously couldn't walk, was blind, had diabetes and diabetic neuropathy. In 3.5 months, and his vision was 40/40. He was running 3 miles a day, had no diabetes, had no neuropathy, went to his eye doctor. His vision was 20/25. Obviously, he threw the Coke bottle thick glasses away and got brand new glasses. Do you think that retired medical doctor is telling anybody about this? He's sharing it with everybody he knows. We need to get the information out to believers that they don't have to live the lie anymore, that they can set free with this nutrigenomic food product, 5 basic substances that took 45 years to develop. It's powerful. It's like a prescription, but it causes the cells to do what God intended those cells to do in his uniquely created genome for them, so that the symptoms disappear, years are added to their life. They have a full life, being able to do the things that they want to do. And Mike, I don't know of anything more exciting. We came out of retirement to do this. We had to do it, and you can tell I'm not very excited about this. But the person isn't doing well, or they're healthy and they want to stay well. Okay,
that's right.
There's
Dr.
the
Rich.
call information.
Yes. There's the conference call, 605-313-5144. There's the access code, 569-034#. Now the phone number that Rich gave out earlier, Dr. Rich, 304-534-5490. You can call him in the office. He'd be happy to chat. He's accessible. He's one of the few doctors you can call him any time of day, and he'll take your call. Now, before we end the show, Kathy, if there are any questions, get ready for that. We have just a minute or so left. Steve, thank you for holding on the line. I appreciate that very much, but I'm pretty excited about Shared Abundance too. So, Steve, your phone number, you said it was okay for people to call you. Can I give that number out?
You bet, Mike, feel free to.
Okay, it's 847-809-6305. Again, 847-809-6305. That's Steve Carr's phone number. Call him and tell him that you heard him on the live show, and that you're interested in Shared Abundance, really a God-honoring way to approach life. Now, you've had 2 fantastic guests on here today, Steve Carr and Dr. Rich. make use of the information that they've given you, folks. It's out there for you. They want to help. These two men have a heart for helping people. They're solutions-oriented people. That's what we need. There's plenty of criticism to go around. Let's focus on solutions to helping people. Now, Mike, did you want to jump back in here before we wrap this show up?
Dr. Mike, thank you for your excellent work, and I just want to encourage the viewers to be praying that your capacity would be increased, and pray for you and I as we work together through the rest of the year, get ready for this conference, and then wrap things up by surpassing our financial goal, send you into 2020, which is going to be a really important year, as we all know.
Yes,
Surplus.
sure is. Yes, on a number of different levels and contexts. 2020 is going to be very important, folks. Steve, thank you so much for joining me, and I would really appreciate having a phone call with you sometime this week at your convenience. And Dr. Rich, thank you so much for joining me today, folks. Listen, we've got parts to play. We've got lives to live for the Lord Jesus Christ. Don't we want to live them without financial slavery or bondage? And don't we want to live them in the best possible health that we can? I think we do. So let's do that together. Make use of these resources. And remember, folks, I tell you this every week, renewing our minds is not an option. God bless you. I'll see you next week.